The widowed millionaire's triplet daughters weren't sleeping until the poor waitress did something that changed everything. The sound hit Rachel Carter the moment she pushed through the kitchen doors, a desperate, soul-crushing wail that seemed to seep through the walls of the upstairs VIP lounge. 3 babies, crying in perfect, agonizing harmony. She paused mid-step, a tray of dirty dishes balanced on her hip, and glanced up at the ceiling. The chandelier above swayed slightly, as if even it couldn't escape the weight of that sound. "You hear that?" Martha whispered, sliding up beside her with a stack of menus. The older woman had worked at Le Jardin for nearly 15 years, long enough to know every secret the restaurant held, and wise enough to keep most of them to herself. "Hard not to," Rachel murmured, setting the tray down on the service counter. "How long has that been going on since they arrived an hour ago?" "Poor things." Martha shook her head, her silver bun catching the afternoon light. "Mr. Whitmore's up there with his daughters, the triplets, you know. Only 3 months old, and I've never heard babies cry like that in my life." Rachel knew the name. Everyone in the city knew the Whitmore name. Jonathan Whitmore, billionaire entrepreneur, recently widowed, young father drowning in more money than most people could imagine. She'd seen him once or twice from a distance, always surrounded by assistants and lawyers, always looking like he carried the weight of the world on his shoulders. "Why are they here?" Rachel asked. "I mean, if the babies are that upset," Martha shrugged. "Who knows? Maybe he's got nowhere else to go, rich people problems." But there was sympathy in her voice, not judgment. Martha had raised 4 kids of her own. She knew what desperation sounded like. The crying continued, relentless and raw. Rachel felt it in her chest, that familiar ache, the one that never really went away. 4 months. It had been 4 months since she'd lost her own baby. 4 months since she'd held that tiny, perfect body in her arms for the only time. 4 months of trying to piece herself back together while the world kept spinning. "Rachel," Chef Henry's voice cut through her thoughts. "Table 6 needs water now," she blinked, shaking herself free from the memory. On it, the lunch rush had been brutal. And by 2:30, the main dining room was finally starting to clear out. Rachel moved through her section on autopilot, filling glasses, clearing plates, forcing her customer service smile, even though her feet were killing her and her shoulders ached from carrying trays all morning. Her phone buzzed in her apron pocket. She checked it quickly during a lull. Her mother, again, the 3rd text that day. "Did you send money for the electric bill? It's due tomorrow." Rachel closed her eyes briefly. She'd sent what she could, but it wasn't enough. It was never enough. Not on a waitress's salary. Not with her mom unable to work because of her bad back. Not with rent due in a week and a half. Martha appeared at her elbow again, this time with an urgent expression. "Mr. Gerard wants you upstairs." Rachel's stomach dropped. "Upstairs, the VIP lounge." Jessica called in sick. "They need someone to cover the private service." Martha squeezed her arm. "It's good money, honey. Don't overthink it." The VIP lounge was a different world. Plush carpets, soft lighting, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline. The kind of place where a single bottle of wine cost more than Rachel made in a week. She'd only been up here twice before, both times just to help carry equipment. Mr. Gerard, the restaurant manager, intercepted her at the top of the stairs. He was a thin, nervous man who always smelled like expensive cologne and anxiety. "Carter. Good. Table 1 needs immediate attention, Mr. Whitmore specifically requested minimal staff, so you'll be handling everything. Drinks, food, cleanup." Understood, Rachel said, though her heart was hammering. She smoothed down her black apron, tucked a loose strand of brown hair behind her ear, and headed toward the private dining area. The crying was louder up here, impossibly louder. She rounded the corner and saw them. Jonathan Whitmore sat at the head of an elegant table set for 2. But he wasn't eating. He was leaning forward, his head in his hands. His expensive suit rumpled like he'd been wearing it for days. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, his dark hair, normally slicked back according to the magazine photos she'd seen, fell messily across his forehead, and in 3 identical carriers arranged on the plush sofa across from him, 3 tiny babies screamed. A woman stood near the carriers, tall, elegant, late 30s, wearing a crisp white blouse and tailored pants. She had the kind of beauty that came with money and maintenance. And she was checking her phone with practiced detachment despite the chaos around her. "Mr. Whitmore," Rachel approached carefully, her voice barely audible over the crying. "I'm Rachel, I'll be, please," he said. looking up at her with red-rimmed eyes. Just water, coffee, anything. His voice cracked. I don't even know anymore. The woman looked up from her phone, her cool gaze sweeping over Rachel with quick assessment. I'm Dr. Lauren Blake, the girl's pediatrician. We won't need much, just keep the interruptions minimal. There was something in her tone, not quite dismissive, but close. Rachel had heard it before. That particular inflection wealthy people used when they wanted you to know your place, of course, Rachel said, keeping her voice professional. I'll bring water and coffee right away. She escaped back to the service area, her hand shaking slightly as she prepared the drinks through the doorway. She could still hear the babies, that sound. It wasn't just crying. It was agony, pure, helpless agony, when she returned with the tray. Doctor. Blake was checking one of the babies, Emily, according to the pink name tag on the carrier. Her touch was clinical, efficient, but the baby only cried harder. Their medication should be taking effect soon, Dr. Blake said. More to Jonathan than to anyone else. She had the calm, authoritative tone of someone used to being believed. Just give it time, you said that yesterday, Jonathan replied, his voice hollow, and the day before that, Rachel set down the drinks silently, trying not to intrude, but as she turned to leave, one of the babies, the one in the middle carrier, Grace let out a particularly heart-wrenching wail, and Rachel's feet stopped moving. She knew that sound. She'd heard it before, in those terrible hours before. Is there anything else, Doctor? Blake asked, her tone making it clear Rachel should leave. No, ma'am, Rachel said automatically. But she couldn't stop looking at the babies. 3 identical faces, red and scrunched and desperate. 3 tiny fists pumping the air, 3 voices begging for something, anything, to make the pain stop. Her shift ended at 4. But Mr. Gerard asked her to stay late double time, which she desperately needed. She spent the next 2 hours in a fog, mechanically going through the motions, while the crying continued overhead like a heartbeat she couldn't escape. At 6, she went to collect the dinner dishes from the VIP lounge. The space was quieter now. Dr. Blake had left, and Jonathan sat alone at the table, surrounded by untouched food and 3 still screaming babies. He didn't even look up when Rachel entered. She gathered the plates in silence, working quickly, trying not to disturb him. But as she passed the sofa with the carriers, something inside her just broke. She set down the dishes. Mr. Whitmore, her voice was soft. May I? He looked up, confused. May you what? Rachel gestured to the middle carrier, where Grace was crying the hardest. May I hold her? Just for a moment. She didn't know what made her ask. Maybe it was the memory of her own baby, the one she'd only held once. Maybe it was the unbearable weight of that crying. Maybe it was just instinct. Jonathan stared at her for a long moment, and she saw the calculation in his exhausted eyes. Stranger, waitress, probably against a dozen rules and protocols. But then he just nodded. Defeated, please, he whispered. Please try anything. Rachel lifted Grace from the carrier with trembling hands. The baby was so small, so light, so perfect. And the moment Rachel cradled her against her chest, supporting her head the way the nurses had taught her 4 months ago, something extraordinary happened. The crying stopped. Grace's tiny body relaxed against Rachel's shoulder. Her fists uncurled. Her breathing deepened and slowed. Jonathan stood up so fast his chair fell backward. How did you? Rachel couldn't speak. Tears were streaming down her face as she held this stranger's baby. This impossible miracle of silence, and then, as if connected by some invisible thread, Emily and Lily's crying began to soften too. She moved to them instinctively, still holding Grace, and touched Emily's cheek with her free hand. The baby quieted, then Lily, her fingers wrapping around Rachel's thumb. Within minutes, all 3 babies were asleep, for the first time in 3 months. Jonathan Whitmore's daughters were at peace. Jonathan couldn't take his eyes off the scene before him. 3 silent babies, 3 peaceful sleeping faces, after months of hell. After countless sleepless nights and doctors who couldn't explain what was wrong. A waitress had walked into his life and performed a miracle in under 5 minutes. I don't understand, he whispered, afraid that speaking too loudly might shatter whatever magic was happening. They haven't slept like this since Rebecca died. He couldn't finish the sentence. Rachel stood frozen, Grace still nestled against her shoulder, her other hand resting on Emily's carrier. She looked as shocked as he felt. I don't know either, she said softly. I felt like I needed to drive. Blake had spent 3 months trying everything different formulas. Medications, sleep training techniques that seemed cruel for babies so young. Nothing worked, but this stranger, this woman in a restaurant uniform with tears on her face, had done the impossible. "What's your name?" Jonathan asked, though he realized how absurd the question was. She'd introduced herself hours ago. But everything before this moment felt like it had happened in another lifetime. Rachel Carter, Rachel. He tested the name, committing it to memory. "Thank you, I don't know what you did, but thank you." She carefully laid Grace back in her carrier, the baby's chest rising and falling in deep, peaceful breaths. Emily and Lily remained asleep too. Their tiny faces finally relaxed. Rachel stepped back, wrapping her arms around herself as if suddenly cold. "I should go," she said. "I'm sure you want to be alone with them." "No," the word came out too sharp, too desperate. Jonathan cleared his throat. "I mean, would you mind staying just for a few more minutes? In case they wake up again." Rachel hesitated, glancing toward the stairs. "I don't know if that's appropriate. Mr. Gerard probably needs me downstairs, and I'll talk to Gerard." Jonathan pulled out his phone, already typing a message. "Please, I'm begging you." Something in his voice must have convinced her, because she nodded and sat down carefully on the edge of the sofa, as far from the babies as possible, while still being in the room. They sat in silence for a long moment, the only sound the gentle breathing of 3 sleeping infants. Jonathan realized he couldn't remember the last time he'd heard quiet, real quiet, the kind where you could actually think. "How old are they?" Rachel asked finally. 3 months. Born May 5th, 10th. The date was burned into his memory, the day he'd gained 3 daughters and lost his wife, their mother. "She had complications during delivery. The doctors tried everything, but I'm so sorry," Rachel said, and there was something in her voice that told him she understood loss, really understood it. "The girls have been like this since we brought them home from the hospital," Jonathan continued. Surprised by how much he wanted to talk, he never talked about this, not with his lawyers, not with his business partners, definitely not with strangers. Crying, barely sleeping. "The doctors can't find anything physically wrong, doctor. Blake has been treating them since birth, trying different approaches. But nothing's helped until now." Rachel looked at the triplets, her expression unreadable. "Have they tried testing for everything?" Jonathan rubbed his eyes. "Every test imaginable. Blood work, scans, specialists from 3 different hospitals. According to modern medicine, they're perfectly healthy babies who just happen to scream 18 hours a day. That must be exhausting. I've hired 6 nannies in 3 months. They all quit." He laughed bitterly. "Can't blame them. I want to quit too sometimes." Rachel's phone buzzed in her apron. She glanced at it quickly, then silenced it. "I lost a baby," she said suddenly, her voice barely above a whisper. 4 months ago, he was stillborn. Jonathan felt the air leave his lungs. "Rachel, I held him once. Just once." She was staring at her hands now, and then he was gone. "So when I heard your daughters crying today, I couldn't walk away. I know what it's like to not be able to help, to feel completely powerless. If I could do something, anything, I had to try." They sat in the weight of that confession. Jonathan had spent 3 months surrounded by people who offered hollow condolences and useless advice. But this woman, this stranger who'd just lost everything, had given his daughters something no one else could. "Would you come back?" The words tumbled out before he could stop them. "Tomorrow, or whenever you're available. I know it's asking a lot, and I'll pay you whatever you need, but if you could just... I work here every day." Rachel interrupted gently. "Monday through Saturday, usually the lunch and dinner shifts. Then could I book this room every day?" Jonathan was already planning it in his head. "You could spend time with them during your breaks. Whatever works for your schedule." Rachel bit her lip, clearly torn. "Mr. Whitmore, I'm not a nanny. I don't have any training with babies, and I don't think you have something better than training. You have whatever it is that makes them feel safe." He gestured at his sleeping daughters. "Look at them." "Rachel, actually look at them. When's the last time you think they looked this peaceful?" She did look, and he saw her resolve weakening. "What about Dr. Blake? Won't she think this is weird, doctor? Blake works for me. And right now, I'd hire a voodoo priest if he could give my daughters an hour of peace." Jonathan stood up, moving closer, but careful not to invade her space. "Please, just try it for a week. If it doesn't work out, or if you're uncomfortable, you can walk away. No questions asked." Rachel was quiet for a long moment, her eyes still on the babies. Finally, she nodded. "Okay, 1 week, but I can't promise anything. You already gave me more than 3 months if doctors couldn't." Jonathan felt something loosen in his chest. Not quite hope, but close to it. "Thank you." The next morning, Jonathan arrived at La Jardin at 10:30, the triplets in tow with their nanny, Mrs. Chun. a stern woman in her 60s who'd lasted longer than the others but still looked perpetually exhausted. Dr. Blake had insisted on coming too, claiming she needed to monitor the situation. "This is highly irregular, Jonathan," Lauren said as they were led to the VIP lounge. She'd arrived in a Mercedes, dressed like she was going to a medical conference rather than a restaurant, relying on some waitress with no credentials. What if she'd hurt them yesterday? She didn't hurt them. She helped them. Jonathan was getting tired of this argument. They'd had it twice already, once on the phone last night, once in the parking lot this morning. You don't know that. Correlation doesn't equal causation. Lauren adjusted her designer purse. Those babies could have finally exhausted themselves. It might have had nothing to do with her. Mrs. Chun, carrying Lily, made a small noise that might have been disagreement. The babies were already starting to fuss. Rachel appeared at the top of the stairs at 11. Still in her street clothes, since her shift didn't start until noon, she looked nervous, her eyes darting between Jonathan and Lauren. "Hi," she said. "Mr. Gerard said you wanted to see me." "Rachel, good morning." Jonathan stood. "These are my daughters. You met Grace yesterday. This is Emily, and that's Lily, and this is Mrs. Chun, their nanny." Mrs. Chun gave Rachel a long, appraising look, but said nothing. "And you remember Dr. Blake, of course," Jonathan added. Of course, Rachel's smile was polite, but didn't reach her eyes. "Good morning, Dr. Blake." Lauren's return smile was just as fake. "Miss Carter, I understand you had an interesting encounter with the girls yesterday." "I guess so." Rachel moved closer to the carriers. Almost immediately, Emily's crying softened. "Hey there, sweetheart. Remember me?" Grace reached up with tiny fingers, and Rachel automatically gave her a hand to hold. The baby's fussing stopped entirely. Mrs. Chun's eyes widened. "I've been trying to calm her for 40 minutes. Fascinating," Lauren said. Though her tone suggested she found it anything but, she pulled out her phone. "Making notes. Tell me, Miss Carter, do you have any experience with infant care?" "Not really. I mean, I babysat my cousin's kids a few times. But nothing professional. And yet you felt qualified to handle 3 medically fragile infants." Rachel's expression tightened. "I didn't claim to be qualified for anything. I just held a crying baby." "Lauren," Jonathan said quietly, a warning in his voice. But Lauren ignored him, stepping closer to Rachel with clinical interest. "How long did they sleep after you left yesterday?" I don't know. I left around 6:30. They slept until midnight," Jonathan said. 6 hours straight. First time ever. Lauren made another note. "Interesting. And their vitals this morning were slightly elevated, which could indicate they're babies." Mrs. Chun interrupted sharply. "Babies who finally got some rest." The tension in the room was thick enough to cut. Rachel looked like she wanted to disappear, but she kept her attention on the triplets, now picking up Grace, who immediately snuggled into her shoulder. "I think," Jonathan said carefully, "we should just see how today goes. Rachel, would you be comfortable staying with them for an hour or so?" "Mrs. Chun and Dr. Blake will be here the whole time." Rachel nodded. "Sure, I've got time before my shift." As she settled onto the sofa with all 3 babies somehow gravitating toward her, Jonathan caught Lauren's expression. It wasn't medical curiosity anymore. It was something much closer to alarm. 2 weeks passed, and Rachel's life developed a strange new rhythm. Mornings at the restaurant became hours spent in the VIP lounge with 3 babies who seemed to save all their smiles just for her. Afternoons serving tables to pay her bills. Evenings wondering how she'd gotten here. Cradling the children of a billionaire while her own arms still ached for the baby she'd lost. Martha noticed everything, of course, she always did. "You're getting attached," the older woman said one afternoon, catching Rachel between shifts as she scribbled notes in a small notebook she'd started keeping. "Those aren't your babies, honey, I know that." Rachel tucked the notebook into her apron pocket. But not before Martha caught a glimpse of what she'd been writing. "Why are you tracking their medication times?" Rachel glanced around the empty break room before answering. "Have you noticed anything weird about when they get sick?" "Babies get sick? It's what they do. Not like this." Rachel pulled the notebook back out, flipping to a page covered in her cramped handwriting. "Look, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 2 p.m. Dr. Blake gives them their medication, and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday evening they have these episodes: crying, fever, restlessness, but on the days she doesn't medicate them, they're fine." Martha frowned, taking the notebook and scanning Rachel's careful records. Times, symptoms, durations, 3 weeks of data, all pointing to the same pattern. "You think the medicine is making them sick?" "I don't know what I think, but doesn't it seem strange?" Rachel kept her voice low. And Dr. Blake is always so quick to dismiss it, saying it's normal that babies are unpredictable. But this isn't unpredictable, Martha. It's a pattern. Have you told Mr. Whitmore? I tried once last week. Rachel remembered the conversation with painful clarity. Dr. Blake was there too. She explained that the medication can cause temporary discomfort as the baby's systems adjust, and that I wouldn't understand the complexities of pediatric care without proper training. She mimicked Lauren's condescending tone perfectly. Mr. Whitmore believed her. Why wouldn't he? She's a doctor. And you're a waitress, Martha finished gently. Exactly. Martha handed back the notebook, her expression troubled. Be careful, Rachel. Rich people don't like it when you question their doctors. And that doctor, Blake, doesn't seem like the type to appreciate interference. I'm not trying to interfere. I just want the babies to be okay. I know you do, sweetheart, but sometimes caring isn't enough. Sometimes it just gets you hurt. That evening, Jonathan asked Rachel to stay late again. It was becoming a routine. He'd book the VIP lounge until closing, paid Gerard handsomely for the privilege, and Rachel would split her time between serving other tables and spending increasingly long stretches with Emily. Grace and Lily, Mrs. Chun, had been let go the previous week. Unnecessary expense, Lauren had said smoothly when Jonathan announced it, though Rachel suspected the older woman had simply asked too many questions. Now it was just Jonathan, Lauren, and Rachel in an increasingly uncomfortable triangle. They're doing so much better, Jonathan said that night, watching Rachel rock Grace while Emily and Lily played on a blanket at her feet. His tie was loosened, his jacket draped over a chair. He looked younger like this, less like the polished businessman in magazine photos and more like an exhausted father trying his best. I can't thank you enough. They're easy to love, Rachel said softly. Adjusting Grace's tiny sock, Lauren thinks we should start gradually reducing your time with them. Jonathan's voice was carefully neutral. She's concerned that they're becoming too dependent on you. Rachel's hand stilled. What do you think? I think Jonathan ran a hand through his hair. I think for the first time since Rebecca died, I feel like I can breathe. I think I actually slept 6 hours last night because the girls weren't screaming. I think whatever you're doing is working, and I don't want to mess with it, but Lauren's the medical professional. She's been with us from the beginning. She knew Rebecca, delivered the babies. He looked torn. I have to trust her judgment. Rachel bit back what she wanted to say, that Lauren's judgment seemed suspiciously focused on keeping Rachel away. Instead, she asked, has Lauren ever explained why the babies cry more after their medication? Jonathan's brow furrowed. What do you mean, the pattern? Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Those are medication days, right? And those are always the worst nights. Lauren says that's coincidence, that babies have good days and bad days. For 3 months straight, the exact same days every week. Rachel hated how her voice sounded. Desperate. Pushy, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was deeply wrong. Has anyone else reviewed their treatment plan? A second opinion. Dr. Blake is one of the top pediatricians in the city. She doesn't need a second opinion. Jonathan's tone had shifted, becoming defensive. Rachel, I appreciate everything you've done, but you're not a doctor. You can't just, I know I'm not a doctor. Rachel interrupted, more sharply than she intended. Grace stirred in her arms and she immediately softened her voice. I know that, but I've been watching these babies for 2 weeks straight, and I'm telling you something isn't right. The door to the lounge opened, and Lauren walked in, carrying her medical bag. She took in the scene with one quick, assessing glance. Jonathan looking uncomfortable, Rachel holding Grace protectively, the tension thick in the air. Am I interrupting? Her smile was pleasant, professional, with just a hint of concern. Not at all, Jonathan said quickly. Rachel was just leaving, actually. Her shift ended 20 minutes ago. It was a dismissal, gentle but clear. Rachel carefully placed Grace in her carrier, pressed quick kisses to Emily and Lily's foreheads, and gathered her things. As she passed Lauren, the doctor touched her arm. Miss Carter, could I have a word? Privately. Rachel followed Lauren to the far corner of the lounge, away from Jonathan and the babies, up close. She could smell the doctor's expensive perfume, see the perfect makeup that never seemed to smudge even at the end of a long day. I know you mean well, Lauren said, her voice low and measured, but I need you to understand something. These babies are medically fragile. Their mother died bringing them into this world, and they've had complications from day one. The treatment plan I've developed is based on years of medical training and months of careful monitoring. I'm not questioning your training. I'm just concerned about your concerns, while touching, are based on nothing but superstition and coincidence. Lauren's smile never wavered. You're a sweet girl, Rachel. You've been through something traumatic with your own pregnancy, and I think you're projecting your grief onto these children. It's a common psychological response. Rachel felt her face flush. That's not what this is, isn't it? Lauren tilted her head sympathetically. You lost a baby 4 months ago. You can't have children of your own right now, so you've latched on to someone else's. It's understandable, but it's also potentially dangerous for you and for them. I'm not latching on to anything. I'm trying to help, then help by not undermining their medical care. Don't plant seeds of doubt in Jonathan's mind about treatments he doesn't understand. Don't make him question the one person who's been here since the beginning. Lauren's voice remained pleasant, but there was steel underneath. These babies need stability, not drama, Rachel wanted to argue, to push back. But what could she say? Lauren was right about one thing. Rachel wasn't a doctor. She had a notebook full of observations and a gut feeling that something was wrong. But that didn't mean anything in the face of medical degrees and professional authority. I understand, she said finally, though she didn't, not really. Good. Lauren patted her arm again, the gesture almost motherly. I'm glad we had this talk. Now, why don't you head home, get some rest? You look exhausted. Rachel left without saying goodbye to Jonathan, her notebook burning a hole in her apron pocket. Martha was waiting by the kitchen doors, concern etched on her weathered face. What happened? I'm being paranoid, apparently. Rachel yanked off her apron, projecting my grief. Making problems where there aren't any. You don't believe that. It doesn't matter what I believe. Rachel grabbed her coat from the employee closet. I'm a waitress, Martha. What do I know? But as she walked to her car through the cool evening air, she couldn't shake the image of Lauren's smile. Pleasant, professional, and somehow deeply, fundamentally wrong that night. Rachel's mother called. The electric company called again, Evelyn Carter said without preamble. We're 2 months behind now, Rachel. 2 months. I know, Mom. I'm working on it now. By playing nanny to some rich man's kids. Her mother's voice dripped with judgment. You think he's going to marry you? Wake up, sweetheart. People like that don't end up with people like us. They use us and move on. It's not like that. It's always like that. You're setting yourself up to get hurt, wasting time you should be spending finding a real job with real benefits. What happens when he gets bored of you, when he finds a real nanny with actual credentials? Rachel closed her eyes. Too tired for this argument. I'll send money next week. That's what you said last week after her mother hung up. Rachel sat in her small apartment, surrounded by unpaid bills and her notebook full of observations nobody wanted to hear. Martha was right. She was getting attached. Her mother was right. She was out of her depth. Lauren was right. She was probably just projecting. But when she closed her eyes, all she could see was 3 tiny faces twisted in pain every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday evening, like clockwork. And no matter what anyone said, that wasn't coincidence. That was something else entirely. Rachel spent her next day off at the public library, hunched over a computer in the back corner where nobody would bother her. She'd never been good with research, barely made it through community college. But desperation made for a hell of a teacher. She started with the basics: infant symptoms, medication side effects, common pediatric treatments. The medical jargon made her head spin, but she kept going, cross-referencing her notebook observations with anything that matched: excessive crying, agitation, restlessness, elevated heart rate, difficulty sleeping. The symptoms could be caused by a dozen different things: colic, reflux, allergies. But when she searched for medications that might cause those exact symptoms instead of treating them, she found something that made her blood run cold. Stimulants. Certain stimulants, given to infants, could produce every single symptom the triplets experienced. They were sometimes used in extreme cases of apnea or other respiratory conditions, but always in carefully controlled hospital settings. Never long-term, never at home. Rachel's hands shook as she wrote down the drug names, the dosages, the warning labels. She had no proof that Lauren was giving the baby stimulants instead of whatever medication she claimed they needed, but the pieces fit too perfectly to ignore. She printed out several articles, paying for the copies with quarters she'd been saving for laundry, and shoved them into her backpack. Her phone buzzed. A text from Jonathan. Girls are asking for you. Free tomorrow. The triplets couldn't actually ask for anything yet, but Rachel knew what he meant. They fussed less when she was around, slept better, smiled more. It was the one good thing in this entire mess. I work lunch shift. Can come by after. His response was immediate. Perfect. Thank you, Rachel. She stared at those 3 words for a long time. Thank you, as if she were doing him a favor instead of desperately trying to save his daughters from something she couldn't quite name yet. Martha cornered her the next day before her shift started, pulling her into the walk-in cooler where they couldn't be overheard. "You're playing with fire," the older woman said, arms crossed. "I can see it all over your face. Whatever you're planning, stop. I'm not planning anything. Don't lie to me." "Girl, I've known you too long." Martha's expression was stern but worried. "I saw you talking to Chef Henry yesterday, asking about medications and symptoms. You think I don't know what that means?" Rachel sagged against the metal shelving. "I think, Doctor, Blake is hurting them, Martha. I think she's been hurting them since they were born, Jesus." "Mary and Joseph," Martha pressed a hand to her chest. "You can't just throw around accusations like that. Do you understand what you're saying? That's a serious allegation against a licensed physician. I know it sounds crazy. It sounds like career suicide. Worse than that, it sounds like a lawsuit waiting to happen." Martha grabbed Rachel's shoulders. "Listen to me. Even if you're right, even if there's something wrong, you can't be the one to say it. You're nobody in this situation, honey. No credentials, no standing, no proof. All you'll do is destroy yourself. Then what am I supposed to do? Just watch those babies suffer? You're supposed to be smart. If you really think something's wrong, find someone who can actually do something about it. Another doctor, child services, hell, an anonymous tip to the medical board." Martha's grip soft, but going up against a woman like Dr. Blake directly, that's not brave. "Rachel, that's stupid." Rachel knew Martha was right. She'd known it all along, really. But knowing something and accepting it were two different things. "I have to try," she whispered. "I can't just do nothing." "Then at least be careful. Don't confront her. Don't accuse her. Just gather information and give it to someone who can actually use it." Martha released her shoulders. "Promise me." "I promise." It was a lie, and they both knew it. That afternoon, Rachel arrived at the VIP lounge to find Lauren alone with the triplets. Jonathan was running late, stuck in a business meeting downtown. The babies were crying, that desperate, painful crying that Rachel had come to recognize as their post-medication state. "Oh, thank God," Lauren said when Rachel appeared. But there was something off about her tone, too relieved, too performative. "I gave them their medication about an hour ago, and they've been inconsolable ever since. I was about to call Jonathan." Rachel moved to the carriers immediately, her trained eye catching the flush on Emily's cheeks, the way Grace's little fists clenched too tight. "Did you give them the usual dosage?" Of course, Lauren was typing something on her phone, barely looking up. "Why would you ask that? No reason. They just seem more agitated than normal." Rachel picked up Lily, feeling the rapid heartbeat against her palm. "Too fast, way too fast for a baby this size. Have you checked their vitals recently?" "I'm their doctor, Miss Carter. I monitor their vitals constantly." Now Lauren did look up, her expression cool. "Is there something you're trying to imply?" This was it. The moment Rachel could either back down or push forward. Martha's warning echoed in her head, but so did the sound of 3 babies crying in pain. "I'm not implying anything. I'm asking a direct question." Rachel kept her voice steady, even though her heart was hammering. "What exactly are you giving them? What medication?" Lauren set down her phone slowly. "That's confidential medical information. I'm with them almost every day. I think I have a right to know what's going into their system. You have no rights regarding these children. You're not their mother. You're not their guardian. You're not even their nanny. You're a waitress who happened to calm them down one time." Lauren's voice remained calm, but there was an edge to it now. A waitress who's apparently been doing unauthorized research on pediatric care. Rachel's stomach dropped. "How did you?" Chef Henry mentioned your question. "Small world, isn't it?" Lauren stood, moving closer. She was taller than Rachel, and she used that height now. Looking down was something that might have been pity. "I understand that you're concerned. I even understand that you've developed an attachment to these babies. But you're out of your depth here, Rachel. You're seeing patterns that don't exist because you want to be important, to be needed. It's textbook transference. That's not what this is. Then what is it? You've known these children for less than a month, and suddenly you're questioning years of medical training. You think you know better than me because you can rock them to sleep." Lauren laughed. But there was no humor in it. "Let me be very clear. If you continue down this path, if you keep questioning my treatment or spreading doubts about my competence, I will make sure Jonathan understands exactly what you're doing, and then you'll lose access to these babies forever. You're threatening me. I'm protecting my patients from someone who's clearly unstable." Lauren picked up her medical bag. "You lost a child. Rachel, that's tragic, truly, but these aren't your children. They're not your second chance, and the sooner you accept that, the better off everyone will be. She walked out, leaving Rachel alone with 3 crying babies and a growing certainty that she'd just made a terrible mistake. Jonathan arrived 20 minutes later, finding Rachel on the floor with all 3 babies, tears streaming down her face as she tried to comfort them. "Hey, what's wrong?" He dropped to his knees beside her. "What happened, I think?" Rachel looked at him, at his concerned face and kind eyes, and knew she was about to blow up her entire life. But she couldn't stop. "Not now, I think, doctor. Blake is making them sick, on purpose." The words hung in the air between them, impossible to take back. Jonathan's expression shifted from concern to confusion to something that looked like betrayal. "What did you just say?" "The medication she's giving them. It's making them worse, not better. The pattern is too consistent to be coincidence. I've been tracking it for weeks, and every time she medicates them, they have these episodes. Increased heart rate, agitation, crying. Those aren't symptoms of whatever she says she's treating. Those are side effects." "Rachel, that's..." Jonathan stood up, running both hands through his hair. "That's insane. Lauren has been with us from the beginning. She delivered the girls. She knew my wife. I know how it sounds, but please, just look at this." Rachel pulled out her notebook, the printed articles, her careful documentation. "Look at the pattern. Look at the symptoms. Something isn't right." Jonathan took the notebook but didn't open it. His face had gone carefully blank, the expression of a businessman shutting down a bad pitch. "Lauren warned me this might happen. She said you were getting too attached, that you might start making things up to seem more important to us." Rachel felt like she'd been slapped. "You talked to her about me. She's concerned about you." "We both are." He handed back the notebook. "I think maybe you should take some time off, a week or 2. Get some distance, some perspective, Jonathan." "Please, I'm not asking, Rachel." His voice was gentle but firm. "You've been wonderful with the girls, but this has clearly become unhealthy for you. Take a break, see a therapist, deal with your grief properly, instead of projecting it onto my daughters." He believed Lauren. Of course he believed Lauren. Why would he believe a waitress over a respected doctor? Rachel gathered her things in silence, her hand shaking so badly she could barely zip her backpack. As she headed for the stairs, she looked back one last time at the triplets, still crying in their carriers. "I'm sorry," she whispered, though she didn't know if she was apologizing to them or to herself. Outside, the afternoon sun felt too bright, the air too thin. Martha was smoking by the dumpster, and one look at Rachel's face told her everything. "They didn't believe you. Worse, they think I'm crazy." Rachel slid down the brick wall. Sitting on the dirty pavement, Lauren got to him first, planted the seeds. "Made me look like some unstable woman projecting her grief." "Maybe they're right," Martha said carefully. "Maybe you're projecting. You don't believe that?" "No," Martha admitted, taking a long drag. "No, I don't. But belief doesn't change facts. You just painted a target on your back, girl." "Now what?" Rachel pulled out her phone, scrolling through the photos she'd taken of her research. "Now I find proof. Real proof that nobody can dismiss. And how exactly are you planning to do that?" "I don't know yet, but I'll figure it out." She had to, because 3 babies were counting on her. Whether their father knew it or not, Rachel waited 3 days before making her move. 3 days of pretending to accept her dismissal, of staying away from the restaurant entirely, of letting Jonathan and Lauren believe she'd backed off. 3 days of planning, researching, and preparing for what she knew was probably the stupidest decision of her life. Martha tried to talk her out of it one last time. "You're going to break into his house." The older woman's voice was sharp with disbelief. They were sitting in Martha's cramped kitchen, the only place Rachel felt safe talking anymore. "Have you completely lost your mind?" "I'm not breaking in. Jonathan gave me the security code weeks ago, remember? In case of emergencies." Rachel stirred her coffee without drinking it. "He never changed it. That was for when you were welcome there. Using it now is still breaking and entering, girl. You could go to jail only if I get caught." "Jesus Christ." Martha pressed her fingers to her temples. "And what exactly are you planning to steal?" "The medication. That'll prove nothing except that you're a thief." "I'm not stealing anything. I'm just going to photograph the labels, the dosages, everything. Then I'll send them to another doctor. Get a second opinion anonymously." Rachel had it all planned out. "If I'm wrong, nobody has to know. If I'm right, if you're right, you'll have evidence that a respected physician has been poisoning 3 infants. Evidence you obtained illegally." Martha reached across the table, gripping Rachel's hand. "They'll destroy you, even if you're right. They'll find a way to make you the villain. I'm already the villain in their story. Might as well earn it." Rachel knew Martha was right about the risks, but she also knew that if she did nothing, those babies would keep suffering. And she couldn't live with that. Not after everything. The Whitmore mansion was in the hills. A sprawling modern structure of glass and steel that probably cost more than Rachel would make in 10 lifetimes. She'd only been inside twice before, both times with Jonathan present, but she remembered the layout. The private medical office was on the second floor. Down the hall from the nursery, she arrived at 2 in the afternoon on a Wednesday medication day. Jonathan would be at his downtown office until at least 6. Lauren usually showed up around 3 to administer the doses, which meant Rachel had maybe an hour window. Maybe less. The security code still worked. The front door clicked open, and Rachel slipped inside, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst through her chest. The house was silent except for the hum of expensive air conditioning, and the distant sound of a television from somewhere upstairs. Wait, television? Rachel froze. Someone was home. Jonathan had mentioned keeping a housekeeper, but she'd assumed the woman only came in the mornings. Apparently not. She stood in the foyer, debating whether to abort the whole mission, when she heard footsteps on the second floor. Heavy, slow. Probably the housekeeper. Rachel held her breath. Pressing herself against the wall, the footsteps faded toward the back of the house. A door closed, now or never. Rachel took the stairs as quietly as possible, every creak of the expensive hardwood making her wince. The medical office was the third door on the left, and thankfully it wasn't locked. Lauren's confidence in her own untouchability was almost impressive. The office was exactly what Rachel expected. Sleek, organized, intimidatingly professional. Diplomas on the wall, medical journals on the shelf, a locked cabinet in the corner that probably held the medication. Rachel pulled out her phone, hands shaking, and started with the desk. Prescription pads, insurance forms, appointment schedules, nothing obviously incriminating. The filing cabinet yielded patient files, but they were coded with numbers instead of names. Rachel snapped photos of everything anyway. Not sure what she was looking for, but desperate to find something, anything. Then she saw the locked cabinet. It was small, brushed steel with a digital keypad. Rachel tried Jonathan's birthday, the triplets' birthday. Every combination she could think of, nothing worked. She was about to give up when she noticed a small key hanging on a hook inside the supply closets. Obvious it couldn't possibly be for anything important. Except it was. The key fit the cabinet perfectly. Inside were rows of medication vials, all neatly labeled. Rachel's breath caught. These weren't standard pediatric medications. The labels were from a compounding pharmacy, custom formulations that wouldn't appear in any regular database, and the active ingredients. Rachel's hands trembled as she photographed every vial, every label, every notation. Methylphenidate, dextroamphetamine. These weren't medications to calm infants. These were stimulants, powerful ones. The exact drugs that would produce every symptom the triplets had been experiencing. She was right. God help her, she was right. The sound of a car in the driveway made her blood run cold. She looked out the office window and saw Lauren's Mercedes pulling up to the house. Early. She was early. Rachel shoved the vials back into the cabinet, locked it, returned the key, but in her panic, she knocked over a picture frame on the desk. It crashed to the floor, glass shattering, footsteps in the hall, fast ones. "Who's there?" The housekeeper's voice, sharp with alarm. Rachel grabbed her phone and ran for the door, but it was too late. She collided with a middle-aged woman in the hallway. Both of them stumbling, the woman's eyes went wide. "You're that girl, the one, Mr. Whitmore banned from the house," I can explain. But the woman was already pulling out her phone. Already dialing, Rachel could hear Lauren's voice downstairs calling out a greeting. She was trapped. She ran anyway, pushing past the housekeeper and practically throwing herself down the stairs. Lauren appeared in the foyer, medical bag in hand, and her expression shifted from surprise to understanding in an instant. "Rachel," her voice was perfectly modulated concern. "What are you doing here? I know what you've been doing." The words tumbled out before Rachel could stop them. "I know about the medication. The stimulants, I know you've been making them sick." Lauren's face showed nothing but compassionate worry. "Oh, Rachel, this is worse than I thought." She set down her bag carefully, pulling out her phone. "I'm calling Jonathan and the police. You're clearly having some kind of breakdown. I have proof." "Photos of everything in that cabinet upstairs? You mean the cabinet you broke into?" Lauren tilted her head. "In the house you were explicitly told to stay away from. That's not proof." "Rachel, that's burglary." The housekeeper appeared at the top of the stairs, phone to her ear, already describing the intruder to someone. "Probably 911. Rachel ran. She made it to her car, her hands shaking so badly she could barely get the key in the ignition. Behind her, Lauren stood in the doorway, phone pressed to her ear. Looking more victorious than concerned, Rachel drove until her hands stopped shaking. until she was far enough away that she could think clearly. Then she pulled into a parking lot and looked at the photos on her phone. Clear pictures, undeniable evidence. Vials of stimulants prescribed to 3 infants who should never have been given them. She'd done it. She'd actually done it. But even as relief flooded through her, she realized something terrible. She'd obtained the evidence illegally. She'd broken into Jonathan's home, violated his trust, proven every terrible thing Lauren had been saying about her, and now the police were coming. Her phone rang, Jonathan's number. Rachel stared at it, knowing that answering would change everything, that not answering would too. In the end, she let it go to voicemail. Then she listened to the message, each word like a nail in her coffin. Rachel, what the hell were you thinking? Jonathan's voice was a mix of anger and disbelief. Breaking into my house. Lauren said you were ranting about medication and conspiracies. She thinks you're having a psychotic break. The police are looking for you. Please, just turn yourself in, get help. This has gone too far. 3 hours later, 2 police officers knocked on Rachel's apartment door. She opened it immediately, phone in hand, photos still displayed on the screen. Rachel Carter, the older officer, a woman with tired eyes, held up her badge. We need you to come with us. You're under arrest for breaking and entering. I have evidence. Rachel held up her phone, evidence that doctor. Lauren Blake has been poisoning 3 infants. The officer glanced at her partner, then back at Rachel with something that looked like pity. Ma'am, you can explain all that downtown. Right now you need to come with us. They let her grab a jacket before handcuffing her. As they led her to the patrol car, Rachel caught sight of her reflection in the window, hollow-eyed, desperate, exactly the kind of person nobody would believe. Martha had been right. She'd painted a target on her back, and Lauren had pulled the trigger without even breaking a sweat. The worst part, Rachel had the proof. She had everything she needed to save those babies. And it meant absolutely nothing, because nobody was going to listen to the word of a woman being arrested for breaking into a billionaire's home. The holding cell was cold and smelled like disinfectant and despair. Rachel sat on the metal bench, still clutching her phone. They'd let her keep it for now. At least until processing. She scrolled through the photos one more time, committing every detail to memory in case they confiscated it. Methylphenidate, 5 milligrams. Dextroamphetamine, 25 milligrams. Dosages that would be dangerous for adults, let alone 3-month-old babies. She'd been right, she had proof. And she'd never been more powerless in her life. The story hit the news within 12 hours. Local waitress arrested for breaking into billionaire's home was the headline Rachel saw on the TV in the holding cell. But that was the gentle version. By morning, the tabloids had gotten creative. Obsessed woman stalks widower and infant triplets. Baby snatcher caught red-handed, from server to stalker. One woman's dangerous obsession. They used her employee photo from Le Jardin, the one where she looked tired and plain next to the restaurant's elegant decor. They dug up her history, the stillbirth, the community college dropout, the eviction notice from 2 years ago. Every mistake, every vulnerability, every private pain was now public consumption. Rachel sat in that cell for 36 hours before they processed her bail. Martha had scraped together the money, $2,000 she'd been saving for her daughter's wedding. Rachel tried to refuse, but the older woman wouldn't hear it. You're stupid. But you're my stupid, Martha said when Rachel was finally released. Come on, let's get you home before the vultures find you. Too late, a news van was already parked outside Rachel's apartment building. A reporter with perfect hair and predatory eyes waiting by the entrance. They ran from Martha's car, ignoring the shouted questions. Miss Carter, is it true you were obsessed with Jonathan Whitmore? Did you plan to kidnap the babies? How do you respond to allegations that you're mentally unstable? Martha peeled out of the parking lot, her jaw tight. Don't look at them. Don't engage. They'll twist everything you say. They already have, Rachel said numbly. Staring at her phone, the comments on the news articles were brutal. Hundreds of strangers who'd never met her, all convinced she was dangerous, delusional, a threat to innocent children. Lock her up and throw away the key, those poor babies. Thank God that doctor caught her. This is what happens when crazy people get attached to rich families. Her own mother had left 3 voicemails, each one more mortified than the last. Do you know what the neighbors are saying? Do you have any idea how embarrassing this is? Evelyn Carter's voice shook with fury. I told you to stay away from those people. I told you nothing good would come from getting involved with them. But did you listen? Now look what you've done. Don't bother calling me back. I can't deal with this right now. Rachel deleted the messages without responding. What was there to say at Martha's apartment? The older woman made tea that Rachel didn't drink and put on a movie they didn't watch. Finally, Martha broke the silence. Tell me you have a plan. I sent the photos to 3 different doctors anonymously. Used a burner email. Rachel had done it from the holding cell, one of the last things before they took her phone. If even one of them looks at the evidence objectively, that's not a plan. Honey, that's a Hail Mary, it's all I've got. Martha was quiet for a long moment. Jonathan came by the restaurant yesterday. Asked if I'd heard from you. Rachel looked up sharply. What did he say? That he was worried. That Lauren thinks you need psychiatric help. That he hopes you get it. Martha's expression was carefully neutral, but he also asked about the notebook. The one you'd been keeping. Said he wanted to see it, to understand what you'd been thinking. Did you give it to him? Course not. It's your property. Martha pulled the worn notebook from her purse. But maybe you should. Maybe if he sees the pattern laid out, the dates, the symptoms, he won't believe it. Lauren's already convinced him I'm crazy. Anything I show him now will just look like the delusions of an obsessed woman. Rachel took the notebook anyway, running her fingers over the cover. 3 months of careful observation reduced to evidence of her instability. Then what are you going to do? I don't know, wait for the doctors to respond, I guess. Hope someone takes it seriously. Rachel laughed bitterly. Hope I don't go to prison first. Her arraignment was set for next week. Breaking and entering, trespassing, attempted theft. Lauren had made sure every possible charge stuck. Rachel's court-appointed lawyer was a tired-looking man who'd spent their first meeting trying to convince her to plead guilty and accept a plea deal. You broke into the man's home, he'd said. Not unkindly, you took photos of private medical files. Best case scenario, you're looking at probation and community service. Worst case, 18 months in county, take the deal. But taking the deal meant admitting she was wrong. It meant those babies would keep suffering while Lauren maintained her perfect reputation. Rachel couldn't do it. On the 3rd day after her arrest, Martha called with news. The triplets are in the hospital. Rachel's heart stopped. What happened? They collapsed last night, all 3 of them, one right after the other. Jonathan rushed them to County General. Martha's voice was grim. It's all over the news. They're saying it's some kind of seizure disorder. That Dr. Blake had been treating them for it all along. Rachel was already grabbing her jacket. I'm going there. Like hell you are. There's a restraining order. Remember, you get within 100 feet of those babies or Jonathan. You go straight back to jail. I don't care. Well, I do. Martha's voice turned sharp. You want to help them. Then stay away and let the real doctors figure out what's wrong. Going there will only make things worse. Rachel knew she was right, but it didn't stop the desperate need to see those babies. To hold them, to tell them she'd tried. She'd tried so hard instead. She did the only thing she could. She called the hospital, County General. How may I direct your call? I need to speak to whoever's treating the Whitmore triplets. It's urgent. I'm sorry. Patient information is confidential. I have information about their treatment, medical information that could save their lives. Rachel's voice cracked. Please, just let me talk to their doctor. There was a long pause. Hold, please. The hold music lasted an eternity. Rachel paced Martha's living room. The phone pressed so hard against her ear it hurt. Finally, a new voice came on the line. This is Dr. Mason. I'm the attending physician for the Whitmore children. Who am I speaking with? Rachel almost sobbed with relief. Someone was listening, actually listening. My name is Rachel Carter. I've been spending time with the babies for the past month, and I have reason to believe their previous treatment was harmful. Miss Carter, doctor. Mason's voice cooled considerably. I'm aware of who you are. Mr. Whitmore has made me aware of your situation. I know how it looks. I know what everyone's saying. But please, just look at the photos I sent. The medication vials, the dosages, those babies were being given stimulants. Doctor, not medication to help them, but drugs to make them sick. That's a serious accusation against a licensed physician. It's the truth. I have proof. I sent it to you 3 days ago. Anonymous email. Subject line: Whitmore triplets medical concern. Please tell me you got it. Please tell me you looked at it. Another long pause. I did receive that email. I haven't had time to review it thoroughly given the current crisis, then review it now, before it's too late. Rachel was begging now, all pride abandoned. Those babies are sick because someone's been poisoning them. If you don't believe me, run independent toxicology tests. Check for methylphenidate, dextroamphetamine. You'll find them in their system, Miss Carter. I know I sound crazy. I know I look like some obsessed stalker who broke into their house. But I did it because no one was listening. I did it because 3 babies were suffering and everyone was too busy trusting the wrong person. Tears streamed down Rachel's face. I'm not asking you to believe me. I'm asking you to do the tests. That's all. Just do the tests, doctor. Mason was quiet for so long Rachel thought he'd hung up. Then, I'll look at the evidence. No promises beyond that, thank you. Thank you, so. But he'd already disconnected. Rachel collapsed onto Martha's couch. Emotionally spent, it wasn't much, it wasn't nearly enough, but it was something. One doctor willing to at least look at the evidence. Now all she could do was wait and pray that it wouldn't be too late. The news that night showed Jonathan leaving the hospital, his face haggard, his clothes rumpled. He'd clearly been there for hours, maybe days. Lauren walked beside him, one hand on his arm, playing the role of supportive friend perfectly. The babies are stable, but critical, a reporter announced. Doctors are still searching for answers. Dr. Lauren Blake, the family's pediatrician, has been working around the clock to help solve this medical mystery. Rachel threw the remote across the room. Her phone buzzed, an unknown number she almost didn't answer, assuming it was another reporter who'd somehow gotten her contact information. But something made her pick up. Hello, Miss Carter. This is Dr. Mason. We need to talk. In person, Rachel's breath caught. Did you look at the photos? I looked at them. And I ran the toxicology test like you suggested. His voice was tight, controlled, Miss Carter. You need to come to the hospital now, but not through the front entrance. There are reporters everywhere. I'll meet you at the staff entrance on the east side in 1 hour. Come alone. What did you find? Nothing that can be discussed over the phone. 1 hour, Miss Carter. Don't be late. He hung up. Leaving Rachel staring at her phone, her heart racing, Martha looked up from the kitchen. What was that about, I think? Rachel said slowly, hardly daring to hope. I think someone finally believes me. Rachel arrived at the hospital staff entrance exactly 1 hour later, her heart hammering against her ribs. The restraining order meant she was technically violating the law just by being here, but Dr. Mason's urgency had overridden every logical concern. He was waiting by the door. A tall man in his 50s with wire-rimmed glasses and the perpetually exhausted look of someone who'd spent too many years in emergency medicine. He ushered her inside quickly, glancing around to make sure no one saw them. Follow me, and for God's sake, keep your head down. They took a service elevator to the 4th floor, then walked through a maze of corridors that smelled like antiseptic and burnt coffee. Dr. Mason led her into a small consultation room and closed the door firmly behind them. The toxicology results came back 2 hours ago. He pulled out a file, spreading lab reports across the table. You were right, methylphenidate and dextroamphetamine, both present in significant concentrations. Levels consistent with regular dosing over an extended period. Rachel's knees buckled. She grabbed the edge of the table to steady herself. Oh my God, those are powerful stimulants, Miss Carter, giving them to infants that young. Dr. Mason shook his head, his expression grim. It's a miracle they survived this long. Another few weeks and we'd be looking at permanent neurological damage. Possibly death? Does Jonathan know? Not yet. I wanted to talk to you first. Understand the full picture. He gestured at the reports. How did you figure this out? You have no medical training, I just paid attention. Watch the pattern. Rachel's voice shook. Everyone kept telling me I was imagining things, that I was projecting my grief, but I knew something was wrong in Dr. Blake. You're certain she was the one administering these medications? She's the only one who had access. She prepared everything herself, never let anyone else handle it. Rachel pulled out her phone, showing him the photos from Jonathan's house. These are from her private office, custom compounds from a pharmacy in Henderson. Not standard pediatric medications. Dr. Mason studied the photos, his jaw tightening. This is premeditated. This is someone who knew exactly what they were doing and took steps to hide it. Can you save them? The babies. They're stable for now. We've stopped all previous medications and started them on supportive care. Their systems need time to clear the drugs. He looked at Rachel with something like respect. You did that. You saved their lives by figuring this out. I almost didn't. I almost gave up. Rachel's eyes filled with tears. If I'd waited any longer, but you didn't. Dr. Mason's voice was firm. Now we need to move quickly. I'm calling Mr. Whitmore down here, and I'm going to tell him everything. You'll need to be present to corroborate the evidence. Rachel's stomach dropped. He won't believe me. Lauren's already convinced him I'm unstable. He'll believe the toxicology reports. And he'll believe me. Dr. Mason stood, already pulling out his phone. Stay here. Don't leave this room. He disappeared into the hallway, leaving Rachel alone with the lab results that proved everything she'd been saying. She should have felt vindicated, relieved. Instead, she just felt sick. 3 babies had been suffering for months because the one person trusted to help them was the one hurting them. 15 minutes later, the door opened. Jonathan walked in. and Rachel's breath caught at the sight of him. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in the past week, hollow-eyed, unshaven, his expensive suit wrinkled beyond recognition. His expression when he saw her was pure fury. "What the hell is she doing here?" He turned to Dr. Mason. "She has a restraining order. She's not supposed to be anywhere near." "Mr. Whitmore, sit down, doctor." Mason's tone left no room for argument. "I asked her to come. You need to hear what I have to say." Jonathan remained standing, his hands clenched into fists. "If this is some kind of your daughters were being poisoned," Dr. Mason laid the toxicology reports on the table. "For months, deliberately, with stimulants that should never be given to infants." The color drained from Jonathan's face. "What, methylphenidate and dextroamphetamine?" "Someone's been giving them to Emily, Grace, and Lily in doses that could have killed them, doctor." Mason's voice was steady. "Clinical. Miss Carter suspected it weeks ago, she tried to tell you. You didn't believe her." Jonathan's eyes found Rachel's, and she saw the exact moment everything clicked into place. The notebook, the questions, her desperate attempts to warn him, his dismissal of her concerns. "Nope," he shook his head. "No, Lauren would never. The medications came from Dr. Blake's private office," Rachel said quietly. "Custom compound she prepared herself. I have photos, evidence. That's why I broke into your house, Jonathan. Not because I was obsessed or crazy, because your daughters were dying and no one would listen." Jonathan sank into a chair, his head in his hands. "This can't be real. It's very real, doctor." Mason pushed the reports closer. "The evidence is irrefutable. Someone's been systematically poisoning your children for 3 months. And according to Miss Carter's documentation, Dr. Blake is the only person who had access and opportunity. But why?" Jonathan's voice cracked. "Why would she do this? She was Rebecca's friend. She delivered the girls. She's been taking care of them since." He stopped. Realization dawning. Since Rebecca died. Rachel saw it happen, the moment Jonathan understood. The late-night visits, the constant presence, the way Lauren always positioned herself as indispensable, as the only one who could help. "She wanted you to need her," Rachel said softly. "She kept the baby sick, so you'd have to depend on her. So she could be the hero who eventually solved the problem. And when you showed up and started making them better," Dr. Mason added, "she saw me as a threat." Rachel wrapped her arms around herself. "So she destroyed my credibility first. Made sure no one would believe me when I figured out the truth." Jonathan stood abruptly, his chair falling backward. "Where is she? Where's Lauren, Mr. Whitmore?" "I've already contacted the police, doctor." Mason moved to block the door. "They're on their way. You need to stay calm. Stay calm. That woman poisoned my daughters." Jonathan's voice rose. "She almost killed them. Which is why you need to let the authorities handle this, doctor." Mason's tone was firm. "Going after her yourself will only complicate things." Jonathan turned to Rachel, his expression raw with anguish and guilt. "You tried to tell me. You risked everything to save them. And I called you crazy. I let them arrest you. You didn't know," Rachel said, though the words felt hollow. "I should have listened. I should have trusted you." He crossed the room, standing directly in front of her. "Rachel, I'm so sorry for everything, for not believing you, for letting Lauren manipulate me." For his voice broke. "I almost lost them because I was too blind to see the truth," before Rachel could respond. The door burst open. 2 police officers entered, followed by a hospital administrator and a woman in a dark suit who introduced herself as Detective Sarah Chun. "Mr. Whitmore, I'm going to need you to tell me everything you know about Dr. Lauren Blake." The next hour was a blur of statements, questions, and evidence collection. Rachel told her story 3 times, each version recorded and documented. Jonathan corroborated everything, his voice hollow as he described Lauren's constant presence, her insistence on handling all medical care personally, the way she'd isolated him from second opinions. "We've issued a warrant for Dr. Blake's arrest," Detective Chun said finally. "She was scheduled to return to the hospital this evening, so we'll have officers waiting." "What about my daughters?" Jonathan asked. "Are they safe? They're under armed guard, doctor," Mason assured him. "No one gets near them without my direct authorization. We've also flagged their charts. Any unusual orders or medications will trigger immediate alerts." Jonathan nodded numbly, then looked at Rachel. "Can I see them?" "The girls, of course." Dr. Mason stood. "Miss Carter, you should come too. Those babies have been asking for you. They can't talk," Rachel said automatically. "No, but they've been fussy since admission. Won't settle down for anyone, doctor." Mason almost smiled. "I think they know you're here." The NICU was 2 floors up. A hushed space of monitors and incubators and impossibly small patients, Emily, Grace, and Lily were in a private room. 3 cribs arranged in a row. They were awake, all 3 of them, their little fists waving in the air. The moment Rachel entered, they turned toward her voice. "Hey babies," she whispered, moving to the first crib. "I'm here. I'm so sorry it took so long." She picked up Grace first, cradling her close. The baby immediately relaxed, her tiny hand gripping Rachel's finger, then Emily, then Lily. Jonathan watched with tears streaming down his face. "They love you," he said hoarsely. "They've always loved you." Rachel looked down at the 3 perfect faces. These children she'd fought so hard to save. I love them too. And in that moment, despite everything, the arrest, the public humiliation, the pain and fear and doubt, Rachel knew it had all been worth it. Downstairs, Lauren Blake walked into the hospital's main entrance, confident and composed as always. She never saw the officers waiting until the handcuffs were already clicking around her wrists. "Dr. Lauren Blake, you're under arrest for attempted murder, child endangerment, and practicing medicine with intent to harm." Lauren's perfect composure finally cracked. "This is insane. I've done nothing wrong. Those babies needed me." "No," Detective Chun said quietly. "They needed you to stop hurting them." As Lauren was led away in handcuffs, screaming about mistakes and misunderstandings, the news cameras that had been hounding Rachel for days finally found a different target. The obsessed woman wasn't the waitress after all. It was the doctor everyone had trusted. The confession came 3 days later. Lauren sat in the interrogation room. Her designer clothes wrinkled, her perfect hair disheveled for the first time since Rachel had known her. The camera captured everything: the breakdown, the tears, the desperate justification of the unjustifiable. "I did it for love," she said, her voice breaking. "Everything I did was for love." Detective Chun sat across from her. "Unmoved, you poisoned 3 infants. For months I kept them sick so Jonathan would need me." Lauren's composure shattered completely. "Rebecca was my best friend. She died bringing those babies into the world, and I promised her I'd take care of them, take care of him. But then that waitress showed up, and suddenly I was invisible. Suddenly, he didn't need me anymore. So you escalated the dosages," Chun said, consulting her notes. "Made the babies sicker to prove Miss Carter couldn't help them. She had no right." Lauren slammed her hand on the table. "No training, no credentials, nothing but some pathetic maternal instinct because she lost her own baby. And everyone acted like she was a miracle worker. She was the only one not poisoning them." Lauren's laugh was bitter. "Unhinged, I'd never meant to hurt them permanently. I'm a doctor. I knew exactly how far I could push before causing real damage. I was going to cure them eventually once that girl was out of the picture. Once Jonathan realized he needed me, but Rachel figured it out first. She was supposed to look crazy." Lauren's voice rose to a shout. "I planted evidence, manipulated Jonathan, destroyed her credibility. It was perfect. She'd go to jail. I'd discover the cure, and everything would finally be the way it should be. But then she had to send those photos to other doctors. She had to keep pushing." Chun let the silence stretch. "Finally, you understand you're going to prison for a very long time." The reality seemed to hit Lauren all at once. Her face crumpled. "I loved him. I loved those babies. Everything I did was for them." "No," Chun said quietly. "Everything you did was for yourself." Rachel watched the interrogation footage in the district attorney's office. Jonathan beside her, Martha had come too, holding Rachel's hand as Lauren's confession played out on screen. When it ended, the DA stern woman named Patricia Flores turned off the monitor. "That's enough for attempted murder on all 3 counts, plus a dozen other charges. She'll never practice medicine again, and she's looking at 25 to life." Flores turned to Rachel. "Miss Carter, I owe you an apology. We all do. I don't need apologies." Rachel said quietly, "I need the charges against me dropped. Already done. Expunged from your record as of this morning." Flores slid papers across her desk. "We're also prepared to offer compensation for wrongful arrest, defamation, and emotional distress. It won't undo what happened, but I don't want money." Rachel stood. "I want my life back. My reputation, my job. The restaurant's already called." Martha interjected. "Gerard wants you back immediately, with a raise." Jonathan cleared his throat. "Rachel, I know money can't fix what I put you through, but please let me help. Legal fees, moving costs, whatever you need. I need people to stop treating me like a victim." Rachel interrupted, more sharply than intended. "I did what needed to be done, that's all, but the truth was more complicated." Rachel wasn't okay. The arrest, the public humiliation, the days in jail believing no one would ever believe her. It had left marks that apologies and dropped charges couldn't heal. The media circus was predictable. Within hours of Lauren's confession going public, every outlet wanted Rachel's story. The redemption arc was too perfect to resist. Humble waitress saves billionaire's babies from evil doctor. Good Morning America wants an exclusive, Martha reported, scrolling through messages. So does CNN, Fox, and about 50 podcasts. Nope, Rachel was firm. No interviews, no tell-alls. I just want to be left alone. But being left alone wasn't an option anymore. Her face was everywhere, vindicated now instead of vilified, but still public property. Strangers recognized her at the grocery store, in the parking lot. At the gas station, some wanted to congratulate her. Others wanted details, wanted to know how it felt to be accused, to be proven right, to watch Lauren's perfect mask crack. Rachel's mother called on the 4th day after the confession. I saw the news, Evelyn said, her voice small. Rachel, I'm so sorry. I should have believed you. I should have stood by you. Rachel sat in her small apartment, surrounded by unpaid bills and apology bouquets from people who'd called her crazy a week ago. Yeah, you should have. I was embarrassed, scared of what people would think, and I took that out on you instead of supporting you. Her mother's voice cracked. Can you forgive me? Rachel wanted to say no, wanted to make her mother feel the same abandonment she'd felt in that jail cell, when even her own family had turned away. But she was too tired for grudges. I don't know yet, she said honestly, but I'm willing to try. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a start. The triplets were released from the hospital after 2 weeks. Their systems had cleared the drugs, and Dr. Mason declared them healthy for the first time in their short lives. Jonathan brought them home to a completely renovated nursery, new furniture, new monitors, new everything, as if fresh paint could erase what had happened there. He called Rachel every day, asking if she'd visit. She put him off with excuses about work, about needing space, about the restraining order that had only been lifted a week ago. The truth was simpler and more complicated. She didn't know how to be around him anymore. Before, she'd been the help, the outsider looking in at a life she'd never have. Now everything was different, twisted by guilt and gratitude and media attention. Jonathan had publicly apologized in a press conference, his voice breaking as he described how he'd failed to protect his daughters, how Rachel had saved them when he wouldn't listen. The apology had gone viral. #BelieveWaitresses had trended for days. Rachel hated all of it. Finally, Martha dragged her to the Whitmore mansion on a Saturday afternoon. Those babies miss you, she said firmly. Driving through the gates, and you miss them. Stop punishing yourself for something that wasn't your fault. I'm not punishing myself. You're hiding. There's a difference. Jonathan met them at the door, and Rachel was struck again by how different he looked, less polished, more human. Circles under his eyes from sleepless nights, but peaceful ones this time, happy exhaustion instead of desperate fear. Rachel, he said her name like a prayer. Thank you for coming. The triplets were in the living room, playing on a mat, 5 months old now, bigger and healthier than Rachel had ever seen them. When Grace spotted her, the baby's whole face lit up. Rachel felt something crack open in her chest. She spent the next 2 hours on that mat, playing with Emily, Grace, and Lily while Jonathan watched from the couch. They didn't talk much. What was there to say that hadn't been said in police stations and lawyers' offices? But as Rachel prepared to leave, Jonathan stopped her at the door. I'm selling the company, he said abruptly. Not all of it, but enough that I can step back, be present for the girls. That's good. They need you. They need you too. Jonathan's voice was careful, uncertain. I know I have no right to ask this after everything, but would you consider being their nanny? Full-time, proper salary, benefits, everything legal and documented. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm asking you to give them what they need. Rachel looked past him at the 3 babies, gurgling and laughing in a way they never had when Lauren was around. I'll think about it. It wasn't a yes, but it wasn't a no either. That night, Rachel stood in her apartment. Looking at the 2 paths ahead of her, she could take Jonathan's offer, insert herself permanently into their lives, risk her heart on children who weren't hers and a man who'd failed her when she needed him most. Or she could walk away, take the settlement money, start fresh somewhere new, leave the trauma and the headlines behind. Both options terrified her. Her phone buzzed, a photo from Jonathan. All 3 babies asleep in their cribs, peaceful and perfect. The caption read simply, "Thank you for giving me this." Rachel stared at that photo for a long time. Then she made her decision. Some things were worth the risk. Rachel started as the triplets' nanny 3 weeks later. The contract Jonathan's lawyers drew up was more generous than anything she'd imagined. Salary that made her. Mother's electric bills irrelevant. Health insurance that actually covered things. a formal employment agreement that protected both of them. No more gray areas, no more questions about what she was to this family. Martha cried when Rachel gave her notice at Le Jardin. "I knew this was coming," the older woman said, pulling Rachel into a tight hug. "Doesn't mean I have to like losing you. You're not losing me. I'll still need someone to tell me when I'm being stupid. That's a full-time job right there." Martha held her at arm's length, steadying her face. "Are you sure about this? Really sure? Because once you're all in with those babies, there's no protecting your heart." "I stopped protecting my heart the day I picked up Grace." And she stopped crying. Rachel managed to smile. "I'm already all in. Might as well get paid for it. The first few weeks were an adjustment." Rachel moved into the guest house on the Whitmore property, a small cottage that was still 3 times the size of her apartment. She had her own space, her own schedule, but she was always close enough to hear if the babies needed her. Jonathan kept his distance at first, professional and polite. He'd leave for the office early, come home late, communicate through notes and texts about the girls' routines. It was easier that way, less complicated. They were employer and employee now, with boundaries and protocols. But slowly, inevitably, those boundaries began to blur. It started with small things. Jonathan working from home more often, setting up his laptop at the kitchen table while Rachel fed the triplets. Conversations that started about feeding schedules and nap times but drifted into other territory. Her thoughts on the news, his memories of Rebecca, their shared exhaustion over teething. "Grace is getting her first tooth," Rachel announced one morning, letting the baby gnaw on her finger. "I can feel it." Jonathan looked up from his coffee, genuine excitement crossing his face. "Really? Let me see." He crossed to where Rachel sat, bending close to examine Grace's mouth. His shoulder brushed Rachel's, and she was suddenly hyper-aware of how near he was, the smell of his cologne, the warmth radiating from him. "I don't feel anything," he said, but he was smiling. It was the first real smile Rachel had seen from him in months. "Give it a few days, trust me." Their eyes met, and something passed between them, recognition, connection, possibility. Jonathan pulled back quickly, clearing his throat. "I should get back to work, right? Of course." But Rachel's heart was racing, and she knew from the look on Jonathan's face that he'd felt it too. Mrs. Evelyn Carter visited on a Sunday afternoon, bringing apology casseroles and nervous energy. Rachel almost didn't let her in, but the babies were napping, and she was tired of carrying grudges. "Your place is lovely," her mother said, looking around the cottage with poorly concealed envy. "Much nicer than that apartment. It comes with the job, Mom. It's not mine still." Evelyn set down her dishes, fidgeting with her purse. "You've done well for yourself. Better than I ever expected." Rachel bristled at that. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing bad, sweetie. Just, you were always so unfocused before community college dropout, dead-end waitressing job. I worried about you." Her mother's voice softened. "But look at you now, taking care of a billionaire's children, living in a cottage most people couldn't afford to rent. You've really turned things around." "I didn't turn anything around. I just did the right thing and got rewarded for it. There's no shame in that." But there was something in her mother's tone that bothered Rachel, transactional quality. As if saving 3 babies had been a career move rather than a moral imperative. She changed the subject before she said something she'd regret. They had lunch together, awkward and stilted, both trying too hard. When Evelyn left, she hugged Rachel tight. "I really am sorry, baby, for not believing you, for abandoning you when you needed me." Tears shimmered in her eyes. "I was a terrible mother. You were scared," Rachel said, "because it was easier than agreeing. So were you. But you didn't let that stop you from doing what was right." Evelyn pulled back, studying her daughter's face. "You're stronger than I ever was." It wasn't forgiveness. Not entirely, but it was something, a foundation they could maybe build on. If they both tried hard enough. The triplets' first birthday party was a small affair. Just Rachel, Jonathan, Martha, Dr. Mason, and a few of Jonathan's closest friends. No media, no spectacle. Just cake and balloons, and 3 babies who didn't understand what all the fuss was about. Rachel had spent days planning it, wanting everything to be perfect. The girls wore matching dresses. She'd picked out herself pink for Emily, yellow for Grace, lavender for Lily. They'd grown so much in the past months, transformed from those screaming infants into giggling toddlers who said mama when they wanted, Rachel and Dad Ev when they wanted Jonathan. The first time Grace had called her mama, Rachel had frozen. "She doesn't mean it," she'd said quickly to Jonathan. "She's just babbling." But Jonathan had looked at her with those impossibly kind eyes and said, "Maybe, or maybe she knows exactly what she's saying now." Watching the girls smash their individual cakes while everyone laughed and took photos, Rachel felt something she hadn't felt in a very long time. Peace, Not happiness exactly, not yet, but the possibility of it. You did good, Martha said, appearing at her elbow. Those babies are thriving. They would have thrived with any decent caregiver. Don't do that. Don't minimize what you've done for them. Martha squeezed her arm. You saved their lives, Rachel, and now you're giving them the childhood they deserve. That's not nothing. Rachel blinked back tears. I just wish what? I wish my baby could have had this too. A first birthday, cake everywhere, people who loved him. The grief was still there, would always be there. But it didn't consume her anymore. I wish he'd gotten to live. I know, honey. But maybe that's why you're so good with these three. You know how precious every moment is. Later, after the guests had left and the babies were asleep, Rachel cleaned up the party debris while Jonathan helped. They worked in comfortable silence, falling into the rhythm they've developed over months of coexisting. Thank you, Jonathan said finally, loading the dishwasher, for everything. The party, the girls, all of it. I don't say it enough. You pay me. That's thanks enough. It's not, though. He turned to face her, his expression serious. Money doesn't cover what you've given us. You gave me my daughters back. You gave them a chance at a normal life. He paused, searching for words. You made this house feel like a home again. Rachel's breath caught. Jonathan, I know this is complicated. I know I have no right to feel anything beyond gratitude after what I put you through. But I need you to know, he took a step closer, you're not just the nanny to me. You haven't been for a long time. Then what am I? I don't know yet. His voice was barely a whisper, but I'd like to find out if you're willing. Rachel should have said no, should have maintained those professional boundaries, protected her heart from another potential disaster. But when she looked at Jonathan, really looked at him, she didn't see the billionaire who'd failed to believe her. She saw the exhausted father who'd been manipulated by someone he trusted, the man who'd publicly apologized and spent months trying to make things right. The person who made her coffee the way she liked it without asking and knew all three babies' quirks as well as she did. I'm willing, she said softly, but we take this slow. For them and for us, as slow as you need. Jonathan's smile was tentative but genuine. I'm not going anywhere that night. Rachel lay in her cottage bed, staring at the ceiling and thinking about how much had changed in a year. 12 months ago, she'd been a grieving waitress with nothing but pain and unpaid bills. Now she was a nanny, a guardian, possibly something more. The road here had been brutal, but maybe, just maybe, it had been worth it. Her phone buzzed with a text from Jonathan. The girls are asking for you. Grace won't sleep without her goodnight song. Rachel smiled, pulling on her robe. Some things never changed, and some things were only just beginning. 1 year later, the garden of Le Jardin restaurant was transformed into something magical. White chairs arranged in neat rows, flowers everywhere, soft music drifting through the afternoon air. The same place where Rachel had first heard three babies crying in desperation was now hosting her wedding. Martha had insisted on it. It's where your story started, honey. It's where it should continue. Rachel stood in the bridal suite, really just the manager's office with better lighting, adjusting her simple white dress. Nothing extravagant, nothing that screamed billionaire's bride, just her. Finally comfortable in her own skin. You look beautiful, her mother said, tears already streaming down her face. Their relationship was still a work in progress, still fragile in places, but they were trying. That had to count for something. Thanks, Mom. I'm so proud of you. I know I don't say it enough, but I am. Evelyn squeezed her hand. After everything you've been through, you deserve this happiness. A knock on the door interrupted them. Martha poked her head in, grinning. It's time. And those three little flower girls are getting impatient. Rachel laughed, imagining Emily, Grace, and Lily in their matching dresses, probably already covered in grass stains. They were 18 months old now, walking, talking into absolutely everything, perfect and exhausting, and hers in every way that mattered. The ceremony itself was small, 30 people, mostly close friends and family. Dr. Mason was there, the man who'd believed her when it counted. A few of Jonathan's business associates who'd proven themselves genuine. Chef Henry and the restaurant staff who'd known Rachel when she was just a struggling waitress. No media, no cameras except for the hired photographer. Just people who actually cared. Rachel walked down the aisle alone, by choice. She'd given herself away too many times in her life to other people's expectations. This time, she was choosing this path for herself. Jonathan waited at the altar, and the look on his face when he saw her made every painful moment of the past 2 years worth it. Not gratitude anymore, not guilt, just love. Pure and uncomplicated. The triplets sat in the front row with a professional childminder, but they kept calling out, Mama, Dad, Da. throughout the ceremony, making everyone laugh. Rachel wouldn't have had it any other way. "We gather here today," the officiant began. But Rachel barely heard the traditional words. She was too busy looking at Jonathan, remembering everything that had brought them here. The crying babies, the desperate investigation, the arrest and vindication, the slow, careful rebuilding of trust, the first time he'd kissed her, 6 months ago in the kitchen while the girls napped. The proposal that had come 3 months later, simple and perfect, Rachel, Jonathan said during his vows, his voice thick with emotion. "You've saved my daughter's lives. But more than that, you taught me what real strength looks like, real courage, real love." He squeezed her hands. "I promise to believe you. Always to trust you. Always to be the partner you deserve for all the days we have left." Rachel's own vows were simpler. "I promise to love your daughters as my own. To build a family with you built on truth and trust. To never let fear keep me from doing what's right." She smiled through tears. "And to always, always listen when babies are crying." The crowd laughed. But there was understanding in it too. Everyone here knew what that crying had meant, what it had cost to make it stop. When the officiant pronounced them married, Jonathan kissed her like they were the only two people in the world. The triplets cheered, or maybe they were just excited by the noise, and everyone applauded. Rachel Carter was now Rachel Whitmore, and somehow, impossibly, that felt right. The reception was held in the same VIP lounge where Rachel had first held Grace. It felt appropriate, full circle. Martha gave a toast that had everyone crying and laughing in equal measure. "I've known Rachel for 6 years, she said, raising her glass. "Watched her struggle and fight and refuse to give up, even when giving up would have been easier. This girl, this woman, has more courage in her little finger than most people have in their whole bodies." She looked directly at Rachel. "You deserve every bit of happiness you've found. Don't you ever forget that drive." Mason spoke next, surprising everyone. "I'm a man of science. I believe in evidence, in data, in things that can be measured and proven. But Rachel taught me that sometimes the most important truths can't be found in test results. Sometimes you just have to trust your gut and trust the people who care enough to keep fighting when everyone else has given up." Then it was Jonathan's turn. He stood with one hand on Rachel's shoulder, or looking out at their small gathering of loved ones. "A year and a half ago, I was drowning. I'd lost my wife. My daughters were suffering and I couldn't see a way forward. Then a waitress heard babies crying and refused to walk away." His voice cracked. "She risked everything, her job, her freedom, her reputation, because she knew something was wrong and no one was listening. That kind of courage, that kind of love. It saved my family." He turned to Rachel, pulling her to her feet. "You gave me back my daughters. You gave them a mother who would move heaven and earth to protect them. And you gave me a partner who I know will always, always tell me the truth, even when it's hard." Jonathan kissed her forehead. "Thank you for not giving up. On them or on me." Rachel couldn't speak past the lump in her throat. She just held him tight while everyone clapped. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of dancing, cake, and chasing toddlers. Emily managed to smear frosting in Grace's hair. Lily fell asleep on Martha's lap. It was chaotic and imperfect and absolutely perfect. As the sun began to set, Rachel found herself alone for a moment on the balcony overlooking the city, the same balcony where she'd once stood, exhausted and underpaid, wondering if her life would ever be more than just survival. "Hey," Jonathan joined her, slipping an arm around her waist. "You okay?" "Yeah, just thinking about how different everything is now. A year and a half ago I was nobody, just a waitress who'd lost everything." Rachel leaned into him. "Now I'm married to you, mother to 3 incredible girls, and people actually know my name." "You were never nobody," Jonathan said firmly. "You were always exactly who you are now." The world just finally caught up. From inside, they could hear the triplets laughing. Martha's voice raised in mock exasperation, the sounds of family and life and love. "We should get back," Rachel said, "before they destroy the cake completely, probably." But Jonathan didn't move, just held her closer. "I love you, Rachel Whitmore. I love you too." They stood there for another moment, watching the city lights flicker on as darkness fell. Then they went inside together, ready for whatever came next. 3 months later, a letter arrived at the Whitmore mansion, prison mail. Forwarded through Jonathan's lawyers, Rachel almost threw it away without reading. But curiosity won. Lauren's handwriting was still perfect, even on prison stationery. "Dear Rachel, I watch the news sometimes. I saw your wedding announcement, saw you with my Jonathan, with my babies, living the life that should have been mine. I want you to know that I never meant to hurt them. Everything I did was out of love. Maybe you can't understand that, but it's true. You won, Rachel. You got everything. I hope it makes you happy. I hope those girls grow up knowing what their precious mama did to put me here. But remember this. Some truths are more complicated than heroes and villains. Someday you'll understand that too. I didn't lose. I just ran out of time. Rachel read the letter twice, then carefully tore it into pieces. Lauren was wrong about a lot of things, but she was right about one. Truths were complicated. Rachel had learned that the hard way, but love didn't have to be complicated. Love could be as simple as hearing a baby cry and refusing to walk away. As simple as believing in someone when everyone else had given up. As simple as building a life, day by day, with the people who mattered most. Rachel threw the torn letter in the trash and went to find her daughters. They were in the playroom with Jonathan, building towers and knocking them down. Laughing like the healthy, happy children they'd finally become. Mama, Grace, spotted her first. Running over with arms outstretched, Emily and Lily followed immediately. All three of them trying to hug her at once. Jonathan looked up and smiled. "Join us, always," Rachel said, settling onto the floor with her girls. Because this messy, beautiful, hard-won life was worth every battle she'd fought to get here. And Lauren, sitting alone in her cell, would never understand that real love wasn't about control or possession. It was about showing up, about fighting for what mattered, about choosing every single day to be present for the people who needed you. Rachel had learned that lesson the hard way, but she'd learned it well.